and welcome to another Ask Anything live stream where if you've got a question about, well, not anything, but anything to do with your business, to do with your personal brand, to do with podcasting, building your business, I'm assuming you're a coach or a consultant, then today is for you, and I will be happy to share my insights, things that I've learned. I've made a lot of mistakes along the way, and if I can share some insights to be able to help shorten your journey, avoid all of the mistakes that I've made and then some, then that's what today is all about. So I've got a number of different things that I have been asked over the last couple of weeks. But if you are joining here now and you are watching the live stream, if you do have a question, there's a number of ways that you can do that. Firstly, you can, whatever platform you are watching from, leave a comment with your question in the comment section beneath this live stream. I will be able to see that if the technology is working, and we'll be able to answer that. There's another way as well. Let me just share this with you. So if you want to join me live and ask your question live, then that gives me an opportunity to dive a little bit deeper into what you're struggling with, maybe some of the things that you've been doing already, so that we can really I can hone my response to you in the best possible way. There's the link there. Do join by Chrome. If you're going to do that, that works better with the StreamYard platform. But bit.ly, ask anything, OCT 27, and mind the capitals there, that is case sensitive. So I will see you once you enter, and we'll get you live on the live stream. So I'm going to just start with the very first question. And when it comes to becoming an influential voice in my industry, my biggest struggle is a short track record. Now, a lot of the things that I draw on, and this is for you as well, this is part of my response, but I think a lot of us can relate to that, no matter whether we are changing industries. And I know now that because of what's happened in the world, there are some of you that may have had to change industries, change job focus, change different company that you're working with now. And so that change has required you now to use a different set of skill sets, different, knowledge and so forth. So you may very well have a short track record in that industry. And one of the things that I remember years ago, decades ago, when I was working in the career industry, one of the most common questions, even with executives and professionals when they were entering a new industry, and it's similar to for entrepreneurs. So whether you are moving from industry to industry, company to company, if you're an executive or professional, or you're an entrepreneur, you've typically worked in corporate and now you're starting your own business, whether it be a consulting practice, whether it be a coaching practice. I know many of you and many of my clients are either coming from having just been certified in a specific modality, and now they're going to use that modality within the work that they're now doing with their clients. And something that I used to say to many of my clients in the career industry back then, and I want to remind you of today, and particularly this person who asked this question about having a short track record, please do not undermine or dismiss previous experiences, even if they were generated, even if they were built, strengthened in a previous role, a previous industry, which may seem unrelated to what you're now doing. And the reason that I say that is because a lot of what you're able to do, a lot of the knowledge and insights and hindsight is an incredible teacher. And hindsight, of course, are lessons that we've learned from previous experiences. It's developed in us the abilities to perform tasks, to be able to provide advice, to think differently, to think outside of the box, all of those different things we can draw from the experiences that we've had. And just because it may have been in a previous industry, a previous sector, a previous environment, does not mean that it cannot add value to where you are now and what you're able to share now and what you're able to support clients with now. So I would say the biggest struggle is not your short track record, but rather the way that you are approaching how you're wanting to move forward. I want to give you an example. I mean, decades ago, I was working with, this was back in 2000, about 2008, 9, 10, that was when the global financial crisis hit. And I was doing some contract work with a company over in the US. I'm based in Australia. And I was working with someone who was in the construction industry, so the housing property, and that just the bubble burst, and he was quite concerned because the company that he was working for had collapsed, and many others had as well. And he was in the situation where he'd only been in that industry for 10 years, yet he had been able to rise the corporate ladder, so to speak, quite quickly within that 10 years, and had gone from starting off with the company right through to now becoming a project manager, overseeing multiple projects around the place in the construction, obviously, of these housing properties. And so a concern for him was, well, now I'm targeting an industry or trying to get into an industry which has just shrunk. Said a lot of the people that I'm competing with have far more experience than I have, and I cannot. This is the point that I'm getting to. There's always a lesson in the stories. I just encourage you to keep an eye and an ear out for the lessons that you'll learn. But he said there are so many more people in the industry and have far more experience than I have in this particular industry. How can I compete with them with such a short track record? Because his previous experience was working in the hospitality industry. He was a chef, a head chef. And he said, I can't mention that at all because it has nothing to do with what I'm going for now, kind of the project management within the housing industry or the construction industry. And I said, well, let's just challenge that. I didn't say that out loud, but I just said, well, let's just have a look at that. Let's just do some exploration. I said, so when you think about the previous role in the hospitality industry, what were some of the projects and some of the challenges that you were often faced with? And we kind of really just pulled apart, we kind of chunked down, if you will, some of the things that he had generated success or had seen achievements for in his industry. And we were able to pinpoint similarities across both the hospitality, the industry, from a kitchen, working in a kitchen, similarities to working now in his role as a project manager in the construction, the domestic properties. Similarities was that it was highly competitive industries, low profit margins, which meant if you burnt a steak or you ruined some food and you had to recook it, or because a client wasn't happy, that would often eat into your profits. Similarly in the housing industry. And so he was able to see similarities, and then he was able to see the reason why he was so successful in this new role and had achieved in 10 years what in some of his counterparts had achieved in 20 years. So it taken them double the amount of time, was because he was drawing on the experience, the knowledge, the characteristics, the approach, his attitude, his aptitude from the, I think that's a number of decades in the hospitality industry as a head chef, executive chef. And so why I share that story is go back and look at your previous experience, your previous history, your previous projects, involvements, successes, and achievements. And before you say, and I know we all do this, but I didn't really have any successes. I didn't have any successes. I guarantee you that if we sat together, I would be able to pull out of you, so to speak, we'll be able to pinpoint at least a dozen success stories that you can start weaving into your story, into your message, because all of that has developed you, shaped you, nurtured you into the person that you are today, that you can bring into your message in this new industry. So you do not have a short track record. You've got a vast record. You just need to pinpoint the relevant stories, the relevant, I call them markers and milestones. You just need to pinpoint the relevant markers and milestones. And if you can't see relevance, then I then I encourage you to dive a little bit deeper, because there are segues into stories that can cross, find those bridges, find the segues that will tie those two situations together, and then be able to support you in really standing with authenticity, with integrity and honesty and excellence into who you are and what you have to offer. And so once you understand that, I think it really gives you a little bit more confidence in stepping out. And remember too that when you are starting out, you don't necessarily want to have, thousands of clients. And here's why. You want to have a small group of clients that you continue to work with, because the work that you currently do, or that you will be doing as you're entering this new industry, the clients that you work with will most likely inform you as to how you continue to evolve your offering and what you provide. And so if I look back to when I first started, say, a new industry, for instance, the podcasting. I mean, I've been podcasting since 2008. However, as I've continued to work with clients in teaching them what I've learned, my program continues to evolve. I've just done, a full week's of diving in and recreating and making even more content around some of the podcast foundations, as far as the message is concerned, as far as monetization, specifically for coaches and consultants, because we're constantly evolving our products, making them better to really suit and hone and support our ideal clients. So I say that because, so often as coaches, we think we need to know everything. We think we need to have everything in place and that everything has to be perfect. It won't be. It never will be. And that's not what you should be aiming for. You should be aiming for delivering the best that you can be and the best insight that you can share for your ideal client, to help them go from where they are now to where they are stuck. And I know with all certainty that you're able to do that, and your product and your service will continue to evolve. So don't worry about a short track record. What you have in here is from, decades for some of you of experience. You cannot get that in a certification. So please do not diminish or disregard some of those previous experiences, because they are going to be what supports you in really making an impact in your industry. So hope that helps. So that was the very first question. So again, there's a couple of ways that you can ask your question. And there is no such thing as a stupid question, other than the question that you did not ask. And I bet you that there are thousands of other people, maybe even tens of thousands of other people, who, when you ask your question, will think, oh, I'm so glad that, he or she asked that question. I wanted to ask that question, but I was too afraid to, because, sometimes we don't want to ask a question because we think, what do they think of me? Don't worry about that. There is no such thing as stupid questions, other than the question that was not asked. So if you want to join me live, you can do that. bit.ly/ask anything oct 27. So mind the capitals, that it is case sensitive. We can have some fun there on answering that question. So, and I'm just here for 30 minutes, providing as much value. I hope it's valuable to you as possible. Some of the things that I've learned from mentors along the way have been significant pivots for me, and a lot of it is around changing mindset. So here's another struggle. My biggest struggle is discouragement, because it seems the field is oversaturated. Discouragement is a lie. And so anytime you feel discouraged, I want you to immediately go, okay, because we all can feel this, but it is a lie, because discouragement wants to keep you stuck from taking a step forward, and then another step forward, and then another step forward, often because the message that you have is going to make a significant difference in your industry, and your ideal client is waiting for you to share your message. Notice, and I'm going to repeat that, your ideal client. There are millions of people in this world. Not all of them are your ideal client. In fact, I would encourage you not to target all of those millions of people, but rather your ideal client, who will relate to you, who will resonate with your story, who will appreciate your approach, who will appreciate your attitude, who will appreciate the fact that you've gone before and you've overcome challenges that he or she is now faced with. Your ideal client is waiting for you, because all of the other people who are saturating the marketplace, to them, your ideal client, their message isn't cutting through. Their message isn't cutting through for them, because whilst they may have content that could support them, the way they are bringing that forward, and there's nothing wrong with the way that they're bringing that forward. Let me just stress, I'm not having a go at anyone. I'm just saying that, other people may have that knowledge and experience to support them, but they just don't feel that they connect with that person. I remember years ago, someone said to me, and I'm happy to have a discussion. I know this is certainly true for me. I won't hire someone if I don't like who they are. If someone to me is not walking in full integrity and excellence and honesty, if and just the style, you I will not work with someone with that. So whenever I'm looking for a coach, the coach obviously has to have a certain expertise. They have to be, a thought leader, if you will, in their area of where they're sharing their content and expertise. However, I still kind of are looking, who is that person? What do they stand for? Do they have similar values to me? Because if you're working so closely, especially from a coach, if you are selling a widget, well, you may not really worry too much. Although I must say, when you see the people who are now very much coming up, who are becoming consumers, they will vote with their wallet. And so, as a company, it's just so important for you to be really clear on your values and continue to share that in your message. So let me get back to that point. The field is not oversaturated because you've got a small group of clients. And when I say small, it's more niched. Small may still be tens of thousands of clients who need you. And because of now, and you're a coach, many of my clients and ideal clients are service-based businesses. So wherever you are placed, it does not matter. You are not restricted to your backyard. With the technologies that we have at our fingertips, you can share your message to a global audience and you can support a global clientele base. So when you say that your field is oversaturated, it is not, because there's a special group of ideal clients, ideal people who are waiting for you to share your message. And your role is to get out there and share that message. First of all, get clear on who your ideal client is. You have to have some idea. And often looking at your previous experience and who you've worked with already and the types of people that you've worked already will inform you as who's your best ideal client, and start sharing your message. And again, as you continue to work with clients, I guarantee there's going to be some people you work with and that you'll go, that is not my ideal client. So often what we'll do is we'll find out who we don't want to work with. And so what I say is, well, what's the opposite of the person that you've just worked with? What are the qualities that person exhibited that you think, there's no way that I want to work with more of this type of person? Well, what's the opposite of those characteristics that you didn't quite appreciate? And then that's the characteristics of the type of people that you do want to work with. So just get your message out there. It's so important. Okay. All right. So that was a great question. So let me just see. So we've had someone come up with a question, and it is a great question because remember, there is no such things. Let me see. I'll read this out. V. Lee Hanson. Let me see if I can answer this. I have a podcast that broadcasts every weekday for 15 minutes or less on various process improvements, project management, content. Great, great. We are seeing subscriptions improve. Let me just move. Whoops, press the wrong one. I'm just going to move this ticker because it's starting to distract me. We are seeing subscriptions improve, good, but feel like the numbers are beginning to plateau. How can we break through the glass wall and make people aware of our open and inclusive approach to decision making? Great question. There's so many different things that you can be doing, but you don't want to overwhelm yourself. So just a couple of things. Often we're looking for new subscribers, new audience. It's like looking for new customers. And what business experts always say is start with the community that you're already building, because I'm sure that the community that you're already building, the subscribers and the downloads of the people, your regular listeners, there are a number of the people in there who could also be ambassadors, who could also, when you kind of create this community, and that's one of the things that I'm really encouraging people to do, is to start creating these smaller communities where you really can hang out and further develop relationships from that. Because I'm assuming that you, and I'll call you Lee, I hope that's all right, Lee. I'm assuming that from the podcast, you're also looking not only to share your message to support people, but you're also looking at generating business, leads, referrals, those kinds of things as well. So I would say look at the community that you're already creating and see how you can continue to build that community and leverage that community to then build more outreach to your, to a future audience or to a bigger audience and future ideal client. There are things that you're probably doing already that you're seeing conversations develop from that. I mean, obviously with some of those lives that you're doing, or some of those weekday 15 minutes, can you do something as part of that content strategy that would get people involved, and then they would just continue to share? Could you do some live streams aspect of Q&As so that they would then share that to your community, to a larger audience? Can you go and incorporate some people who may be circles of influence with your ideal listeners and hence clients? Can you do some of those things, within those 15-minute, broadcasts that would get engagement and contribution from some other people that naturally will open up to a larger audience? I think when you create an environment where people, they want to hang out with because it's insightful, it's information that is cutting edge. I think if you continue to really, do with even more intention with the content that you're sharing, and that you're really seen as a leader in the marketplace, people will naturally, your ideal client and audience will naturally gravitate towards you. See if you can leverage your existing community, try and get them even more involved so that they naturally will share that with their audience and so forth. And then circles of influence, can you involve them, some of them, within some of these broadcasts, to be able to continue to share great content and insights with your existing community, but as they continue to share with their community, because they'll want to be featured and kind of build brand awareness and exposure for them too. That would be really helpful. That's what I would continue to do, just to zhuzh things up a bit as a start of, those are kind of three things there. I don't know if you want to comment back and see whether that was helpful for you. Yeah. And the fact that you've said here that people are aware of your open and inclusive approach to decision making. I mean, I'm not in your industry, obviously. However, it sounds to me like it's quite unique. Is that something that's quite uniquely to your industry and to what's happening in your industry? Why don't you showcase some of those things? What can you do as part of your podcast that can continue to promote, to build awareness of that open and inclusive approach to decision making? And Lisa, that was perfect. Thank you so very much. And I'll stop at the 3 because I can probably, if we were kind of discussing, I could probably give you even more information. But what I would also encourage you to do, just from those 3 things, see which ones are starting to build, momentum. And then you might just double down on one of those things, or you might say, well, all of those things are working really well. See if there's an intersecting point between all of those 3 things too. Because if there is, it means that no matter what you are doing, you can continue to repurpose. So I'm glad that was helpful for you. And by the way, just with the responses, I learn the greatest insights, if you will, from someone sharing a response to someone else that may not necessarily be in, my industry. I always ask myself, oh, that's interesting. Can I use that insight in some way that I'm doing, business? Can I tweak it somewhat? Can I change it up? There we go. Okay, I don't know whether I have any time. Let's just do one more. Here we go. All right, here's one. Here's a simple response. And this is a great question too. I'm not always disciplined with putting content online, even though I believe I have purposeful messages, which isn't really stated as a question. But that was kind of a follow on from becoming known as an influential voice. And, the response to that would be, and it might seem, you know, ridiculously simple, get disciplined, whatever that means for you. So let's just take it a step back, just a couple of minutes as we just about at the near the end. What is driving that discipline? Is it just because, you think, because I'm the same. There's some things that I'm just not doing, and I just have to tell myself, get over yourself, get it into your diary, and get it done. That's it. There's no questions about it. Get it done. You've got all of the things that you need. It's just that you're not doing that. It could be, procrastination. I am the biggest procrastinator under the sun. Okay. And then I just chose not to be. Give yourself 5 minutes to procrastinate, then get into action and double down on everything that you're doing. So, what's driving that lack of discipline? And if it is something that's quite simple as well, I've just got to, give myself a kick up the backside, then give yourself a kick up the backside. But is there something that you're not disciplined because maybe you haven't got the right tools and technologies, which means that every time that you do start to put content online, you end up almost just about, because I've been there, you just about throw your computer out the window because the technology is stuck. And so what you may need to do then is look at, well, how are you approaching this? Do you need to learn something differently? Do you need to come up with a streamlined system to be able to make that posting of the content online easier for you? Do you maybe need to delegate it? Because, as a CEO of your business, putting content online, you may want to create the content, absolutely. But once you're actually created it and you've created some snippets, that you can hire a VA, someone who is highly skilled and that can do that for you. So you may need to consider that too. Maybe you don't even know of the different tools that are available for you so that you can do this systematically and just make it as part of your business. So I would explore what is driving that lack of discipline and create some systems around that. And once those systems are up, then have a competition with yourself. That's something else that I do, when I'm in the zone of procrastination. Because, let's face it, as entrepreneurs, we're quite competitive, even though we may not like to think that we are. But there's nothing wrong with healthy competition. It drives you forward. Let me just say, put 20 minutes on your phone, phone, and see how many things that you can post, and then have a competition with yourself. Yesterday I posted 5 things. Today I'm going to double that and have some fun with that. Just get disciplined and do that. And if it's something that you find that you're not disciplined enough in doing, because I don't know if you've heard of the Colby A scale. I'm a quick start and my follow through is not so good, which means some of this disciplinary stuff that we need to do, and it's, stuff that we need to do as part of follow through, it won't get done because as a quick start, I'm far more gifted in the area of creative projects, overcoming challenges, seeing things where things, typically others can't see. Those are the kind of thing, and then getting into action and doing that. But then once that creative project has kind of come to a close, I have team that supports me because otherwise these things are not going to get scheduled. And that could be, it's because you're trying to do something that you have not naturally been created to do. It's not something that's quite natural. Sometimes when we're just starting out in our business, we need to do that because we may not have the funds to be able to, or the capital to be able to hire a team. But you don't need to hire someone full time. You can just hire someone for a couple of hours a week to support you, a VA. Reach back out if you want to, or I'm sure you've got a network that you can tap into that you can say, hey, who do you know that can support me in that particular area? So again, just be mindful. You may be trying to discipline yourself in an area which you really should not be doing yourself because you're not skilled in that way. You're far better focused on, honing into, you've heard this term before, your zone of genius, and just focusing on that. So that would be my answer to your cue for that. And we've got another, hey Lavinia Bailey from the Netherlands, from the Nederland. My parents were Dutch, so Don't ask me to speak any Dutch because I'm not that good, but I can understand it. All right. Well, that is the top of the hour. I hope that you have taken away some insights. I'm here every single week. Join me live next time. I'm hoping that there would be some people there. Lavinia said, wow, yes. Yeah. The Dutch, love the Dutch, love, love, love the Dutch. Okay, so I'm going to be here again next week. This live stream will, the video will be here, and of course, we'll be sharing this on my podcast as well. So if you're listening to this version on the podcast and you want to be part of that, or you've got a question, then come on over and join our community over Alles Goed? Ja zeg? Ja, dank u wel. Everything is good. Everything is good. All right. Okay, everyone, I'll be here back again next week. If you do have a question and you'd want to join our community of change makers, we can do that. A couple of places that you can do that. If you prefer the LinkedIn platform, Podcasting with Purpose is where we typically hang out there on the company page. And on Facebook, if you go to podcastingwithpurpose.com/community, you'll be able to join us there on our Facebook group. But I'm going to finish this live stream now. I will be back the same time next week as well if you've got a question. Otherwise, we can continue the conversation just on any platform that you prefer to hang out with. So I'm going to say goodbye and hope you have a fantastic day or evening wherever you are in the world. Bye for now.